This is a panel discussion about the Folk Conference, the Folk Alliance International Conference 101. I had to remind myself what that said. So what we wanted to do this year was talk to musicians, talk to the acts that are going, and also people who are just interested in the conference, and let them know what's going on, how it all works, and most importantly, how to make the most of your investment, because it's really a big investment. You have to pay for your badge, but you also have to spend a lot of time there as well. Hi. So there's no point in going there and just walking around aimlessly, because there is so much that you can do there and so much of an advantage to your career. So we've put together a panel, and let me answer this. Here we are. A panel of folks that...
This is my stand-in.
Right. So Alex Mallet is here. He was going to be here, and then he couldn't be here because they've just had a baby. So congratulations. And so Sandra was going to sit in for him, and then Alex showed up. So Sandra is no longer sitting in for him. So anyway, these are the folks that you get to talk to. You've got Aaron and Jeff down here on the end. They're a nationally touring act. Last year and the year before, they tore it up at the Folk Conference. And so they're going to have some great advice. Alex, what is your position?
Business Development Manager.
At Folk Alliance International. Tommy Donahoe is president of Money Wolf Music. He's been involved with the Kansas City representation for the past 2 years. And then Aengus Finnan in the middle is the executive director of Folk Alliance International. So he might know something.
We'll see.
So we're just going to throw up a slide, and then we'll kind of look over it, and then we'll talk about it. The panel will discuss. You guys can ask questions. Please ask questions. Learn as much as you can tonight. So we're going to start with the first one, which is, why go to the conference? It is about your career. The conference is a really good time, but it is a place to advance your career. There are educational panels. I'll just read off of it because everybody loves that, right? So you can actually learn about the music industry from professionals in the industry. They will be there. And you can go to these educational panels, you can ask questions, you can engage. It's awesome. We'll go back through these. There are some actual lists of what's going on. So we'll just run through this real quick. The master classes are master musicians who are taking their time to teach you how to play your current instrument or learn a new one. And then, of course, there are the private showcases where you can perform in front of new audiences and make connections with people from all over the world. I want to real quick, it depends on how quick the internet is here.
Not very.
Not very, so we'll see what happens here.
The router's all the way up at the other end of the building.
Oh.
I think it's just the hamburger grease.
It does permeate everything, right?
You know what we might do is we might walk through the website at the end so that we don't wait for these links to work here. I do want to say on each of these things that the schedules are available before the conference starts. They will be available online. They will also be available in print. Sit down and figure out which of the panels you want to see before you get to the conference. Go through them, figure out what would be most useful to you, mark it on your schedule. Okay? Same thing with the master classes. Go to the master classes. Even if you don't think you can handle it, go. Just listening to them talk and listening to the interaction is worth your time. That schedule is up already. It's on a PDF on the site. So plan it out now. And then as far as the private showcases go, people have been booking these for a while, so a lot of the slots are already filled. But if you are interested in playing a private showcase, try and play non-KC private showcases. Get a hold of the people. If there are open slots, take them. If there aren't open slots, put yourself on a list. Get out there and do that, because that gets you in front of new audiences. Okay, now we'll get into some stuff that these guys want to talk about. Hopefully. Networking. This is really the biggest thing right here. And everyone here will be able to talk a lot about it, and I'll be quiet. I'm not going to read all of this stuff for you. What I'm going to do is open this up to the panel. And I think actually Erin had some really great insight that she sent us by email. And Erin, if you would like to just talk about that a little bit, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so this will be our third year at the International Conference here in Kansas City, but we've also gone to a regional one in the Northeast Regional Conference, which is NERFA. So this will be our fourth conference with Folk Alliance since we became familiar with them when they moved to Kansas City. And my only thing I can say is that I wish I had gone much, much sooner in my career. Probably the biggest thing, there have been many benefits that we've personally experienced from the conference, and I'd be happy to talk to all of you more about that. But the first one that for our first year was definitely the networking. And partly, I think what people sometimes don't think is that, it's great to go and play your music for other people and you hope people get interested in what you're doing, but actually meeting other musicians from around the country is a great way to actually get yourself work. Musicians help each other get work, especially when you're on the road and touring. I can't tell you how many times I've called my friend in Denver and said, hey, we're coming through in June. Can you help me find a show? It happens all the time. And you won't know these people maybe until you go to this conference. So that's a great and easy one. Networking with other musicians, no matter what level you are in your career, whether you're touring a lot or not, this is a great way to find out just everything about people not in our region. We're pretty, we're here in the Midwest, right? We're kind of far from the coast, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of opportunity for us everywhere. Talking to musicians is a great way to find out about those. Also, room sponsors. So, Christian, by that, you mean like Access Film Music is sponsoring the showcase room that we're
Exactly.
playing in? Okay. So that's one. This is our actually fourth year. We've played in their room. Every single conference we've been on, it's a guy named Mike Beck, who happens to know a lot about PROs, publishing rights organizations, and is just super connected. He also does a showcase thing in Europe that he's talked to us about. He contacted us the first year, playing in a non-Kansas City room. We didn't know anything about it, but we thought that title, film music, Access Film Music, maybe he does placement. He does indeed do placement. So that's been a great resource. And now we have a real relationship with him because we've known him for 3 years. So those relationships start to build real work. So that's panel members. The other huge thing that's happened to us is that the first year we didn't really know why we were there. We went because musician friends that we trusted, Betsy Ellis and also Louis Myers, said you have to come. So we went, and then we figured out why we were supposed to be there. But one of the things that we've benefited from was going to the panels. So the first year we didn't really understand about the panels, and we kind of wandered into a few panels just by chance, by luck. We saw some amazing musicians and also saw some incredibly connected people talk. So the second year, we got really serious about the panels, and we went with a goal in mind. So last year at Folk Alliance, we were looking for team members. So specifically, we're looking, because we tour, for a booker. And the first year, we found out what we needed to know. So we went to a booking panel. Again, we sort of just stumbled into it, kind of like, I don't know, let's just walk in. So we sat down, and there was a booker in there that we absolutely loved. And he books great big bands, way bigger than us. But we just, got up our courage and just got him in the hallway afterwards and introduced ourselves. And I said, I appreciated your time. Always thank them for their time. These people are industry professionals. They're really, really busy. And it's fantastic that they come and give their time at these. And if they'll give you a moment in the hall, be gracious and thankful and understand you're probably not at their level, but that's okay. This is a great way to introduce yourself. So we said to this guy, we're looking for a booker, and he told us a piece of information. Every year we've gotten at least one piece of information that was crucial to us. That first year there, he said, how much money do you make making music a year? No one asked that here, right? Well, he asked me straight up, and we told him, and he said, when you make $75,000 a year, then you can start to talk about getting a booker. Other than that, we're not interested. You don't make enough money. Wow, you know what that did? That set my goal for how much money I need to make the next year, because we want a booker and we want to continue to tour. This is the kind of information that you can get when you go to these panels and when you talk to these people. We don't have access to bookers, national bookers. This guy is Davis McClarty is his name. So he books great big acts out of Texas. We don't have bookers like that in Kansas City. I don't personally know any, so we don't have any relationships with them. This is about building relationships, and that's what that networking is about. The second year, we met a woman who's become our business consultant that was on a panel about how to A&R your own record. We don't really have A&R people here. I don't know, how do you do that? So we went to a panel, we met this lady, went to go see her speak again. We ended up hiring her. She's been working for us for a year and a half, with us for a year and a half. Same thing. Last year, went to another panel on team building. So you can see we're getting serious about trying to build a team around us, how much it's gonna cost and how do we afford it. So went to this team building panel, talked to a woman afterwards, same thing, book her for a big club in New York. And I said, we can't afford this level of people you're talking about. We're not at that level yet. What would you recommend to me? Here's where we're at. And she sat for a minute and she said, I would recommend you spend your money on a social media person. Wow, I would have never said that. That would not have occurred to me. So we hired a part-time social media person, which has been enormously helpful to us. This is what I'm saying about know what you're going for and don't be shy, be gracious, ask them questions, direct questions. But the access to these panel members, these are the people that book the ARC, these are the people that book Passim, all the biggest clubs on the Big Ten routing for the folk. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go find out. They sit on these panels. It's a great way to meet them. And now we know them after 4 times through. So it's fantastic access. I don't know where else we'd get this.
Yeah, I think that's another thing too. Is it's kind of an arc. I mean, you don't meet a booking agent or a talent buyer for a venue and shake their hand and ask them for a gig. I mean, that's not. In fact, you should not do that. I mean, it's really one of the greatest things about Folk Alliance is building the network and building the relationship. Because what we found out is that it's really about relationships with people, and what it all goes back to is people want to hire people they know and trust. So you have to start building that somewhere. We met a guy who's a talent buyer for this great club out on the East Coast, and we've known him for 2 or 3 years now, and we really like him and we get along. But we still have never really asked him for a gig because we know that we don't have any draw in Boston because we've not really toured much of the Northeast. So, but now we know him. So once we start getting out there, we have that. So this is another thing about Folk Alliance that has just been greatly
and that's the
beneficial.
type of relationship where if you're not ready to play his club, he'll be able to point you to the place that he looks before he books an act.
Exactly.
Fantastic, yeah.
So it's that. A lot of times the friendships you make from networking are, I mean, I hate to say valuable because that puts a number on it or something, but your friendships count for a lot, and with artists too.
Yeah.
And if I can I come from a very different end of the spectrum than these guys. I mean, you guys are out on the road, I don't know how many days a year. I'm more the occasional weekend out. I play here more than I play anywhere, not here specifically, but Kansas City.
Yep.
And in the last, a lot of what I learned is actually what I'm doing wrong. But you also learn, don't just ask people directly for shows. Work more on building friendships, because I've gotten more out of following. Say you find somebody playing in a room that you really dig, follow them around, figure out where their next few rooms are. If you really dig them and you think they fit with your style, if you're a bit more of an occasional player that maybe works a day job, or haven't quite been able to just leave the scene and tour endlessly, you can connect with other people that are sort of in a similar boat that you are, and then you've got friends in Colorado, you've got friends in Washington, and East Coast, West, like everywhere that suddenly you can network out, and chances are they'll be hitting you up to, hey, can you help me find a show in Kansas City? Can I sleep on your floor? And then you can actually then sort of reciprocate with the, hey, I want to book 3 days through this, and I'm going to be coming to your town. And that's much more of a musician to musician level, but that's a lot of what you get in the private showcases. Whereas, you know, I learned with the panels that I went to, I learned a lot of what I was either doing wrong or going, you know, I'm not at a level to where this is what I'm ready to do, but if I want to, I know I have the tools to do it. Or, you know, again, thank people, always thank them, and never just ask for like a gig. Be more like ask for a friendship, you know.
One of the experiences that I had in a panel, I'm not going to remember her name, and Aengus, maybe you can help me. She's involved in the Calgary Folk Festival.
Carrie Clark?
Was there someone with a Susan name or a
Suze Casey?
That's who it was, okay. Anyway, her piece of advice, I went up and talked to her after a panel, and she said, you know what, we're all really busy, so if you want something, ask us. And the worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to tell you, no. But no doesn't mean no forever, it just means no right now. So then you can just ask us next year. And I really took that to heart. Alex and Aengus, the schedule for the panels aren't up right now, but I was wondering if you might be able to speak a little bit to some of the panels that are going to be available.
Sure. It will be up shortly. There are 3 different tracks, one for artists, one for presenters, and one for industry, ranging from navigating federal policy with representatives from different agencies from Washington who will be speaking on different topics from copyright to changes with the performing rights organizations. There are more community-oriented sessions that are general in nature about the different times in the folk music eras. So sort of a broader community view of things, and then there are very specific professional development sessions, including better bookkeeping, at which Aaron is going to be participating as a local panelist on. But one of the things I think to take note from these conversations is the value of the panels, because it's also a place where you get to know how people tick, so that you can learn how to communicate with them. So if you're interested in playing a particular festival and you see that festival director is speaking on a panel, going and sitting in that room for an hour and hearing them speak about their festival might give you a very different perspective on what they're looking for than cold calling someone who you don't really know from another person representing an event. So it allows you to sort of see who people are and start to get a sense of how you would approach them. And one of the things to keep in mind locally is that while the event came here, it can be a little bit misleading in that for most people who attend the conference, and there are some who have been attending every year for 28 years, this is an industry event for them where they are spending thousands of dollars to attend, to fly in, to be in the hotel, to advertise, to set up their trade show booth. And it's not that they don't like being in Kansas City, but the reality is the conference has been all over North America. It happens for those 2,000 delegates, they would go wherever it is. It happens to be in Kansas City, and we happen to love having it here. But for those 2,000 delegates who have followed it wherever it is, it brings them here. But their main purpose is to use those 5 days to network professionally for the next year. So as local folks, appreciating that in 2019 the conference will be in Canada. Every 6 years it's in Canada. Considering, what level are you coming into the conference at? Are you at a level where you're going to want to follow it as the other 2,000 delegates do, or not? And you don't have to. There are also 5 regional conferences, one for the Midwest specifically. And I certainly encourage anyone who's considering being more involved to look at some of those regional conferences. And as Aaron was saying, to take a long-term view of it. 3 years minimally. The first year is about reconnaissance, just seeing how it works. Mm-hmm. The second year is sort of testing out what you might have been intrigued by and building some traction. And for most of those presenters and industry folks, to take you seriously in the sense of, are you in this, is this your career? Are you going to be showing up in 5, 10, 15 years? Can they book you and know that their audience is going to see you in the future? They're looking for those relationships to be built and to trust that you're going to be at those other events and in Toronto or Montreal in 2019. And so knowing what way to approach people and what your intentions are at the event is important.
I think the regional conferences are really important too, especially if you're not, like, as you said, not quite ready to, chuck everything and get on the road full time. The regional conferences can be great, and there's actually two kind of not too far from here. There's Surface, not that far from here, and Farm both. We went to NERFA, which was great, but those are a little bit more regionally focused. Obviously, they're called the regional conferences, so they're smaller, and you get more time with everybody. I mean, it's like the international one, but just down a little bit. And we found that to be actually really, really helpful when we were targeting Northeast. We went to that conference, and that's where all the Northeast bookers are, and they're ready to talk. I mean, because it's a little bit smaller, so they're there looking for. They've got their own specific agenda that's a little bit different even than the international agenda. So that's a great place to start too, and a little bit less expensive because we don't have to travel so far. Like driving to Toronto is going to be expensive, but we'll go. So.
Aaron, I was
introduce a term that one of our long-term community members introduced me to. There's this guy. Sorry.
The air conditioner.
Oh, sorry.
It's loud out here.
So yeah, I'd like to introduce a term that one of our community members, David Amram, who's played with Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and Bebop Guys and the whole thing. He introduced me to this term, the University of Hangology, and it changed my life. I got this from him at actually NERFA, one of the regional conferences, and I decided to skip everything else and just hang out with David Amram. And he started telling me about the Bebop Guys, all these stories of people he hung out with and things he learned from them. And I think it's something that really applies at Folk Alliance in every aspect of it, whether you're going to a panel or talking to a musician that you've never met before. There's an incredible professional development and educational mode that you get into through the University of Hangology, and just saying, oh, you're from Tulsa, Oklahoma. What do you do to book a gig there? And they say, oh, you have to know Millie. She books every gig in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And they're like, oh, Millie, do you mind sending me an email with her contact? And then there you go. Or, whatever it is. And I think it's crucial to all parts of this.
And adding to that, this is total nerdy comment, but he mentioned oh, send me an email. Just always carry around like a pen and something to write on as well, because some people are reticent to shoot you a text. You might meet people from out of the country that like their cell phones just aren't set up to be working here. Like always have a way to communicate with people, specifically for the Hangology.
University of Hangology.
University of Hangology. It's because you'll be doing that.
You want your own business cards, but you also want something that you can write on and hand and keep for yourself and hand to them. Just be prepared in that way.
It's the geeky basics, but it's like kind of essential.
Aaron, I just wanted to also, you mentioned going to NERFA because you were targeting the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And is it NERFA?
NERFA. Northeast, yeah.
NERFA. Yes, Northeast, not Morpheast. Anyway, so I thought that was really interesting, and I wonder if you could just talk about it just for a second. If you're looking for an area that you're interested in playing in, and in particular, that might be right here in our region, which would be Farm, but if there's an area that you want to play in, you might look at one of the regional ones.
Right, so this year we're going to go to Surfa, which is southeast, mostly because we keep a map of all the states we've been to, and we've been to 36 states, but there's a big hole right down here in the southeast region of the United States. We don't know anybody, we don't have any relationships, so we're going to go to Surfa, because that's where all the bookers and all of the industry people and the folk world are going to be, and they're all going to be there in May. So we'll go down there, and that's what we're going to do there. So it's strategic. You know, it costs a lot to go to these conferences. We didn't go to NERFA this year because we didn't get a showcase. We've been fortunate. We've had 2 official showcases here, and then we also had a quad showcase at NERFA, which definitely helps you go. Yeah, talking about getting official showcases, which helps you go, but don't be discouraged if you don't get showcases, because I mean the official showcases, because there's just so many people. There's so much talent at these things. It's really lucky to even to get one at all. But that doesn't mean that sometimes people say, well, if I don't get an official showcase, then I'm not going. That's not the way to look at it. I think what we're really all talking about here is it's a change in attitude between I'm going to go to the conference because I'm going to show everybody my stuff, and I want someone to see me there and give me something that's going to help me, as opposed to say, there's this enormous rich resource, and I'm going to go there and glean everything I can from it. That's really what we learned the first year. And so since then, all of our everything we do with Folk Alliance is thinking about what do we need this year, and it changes year to year. I mean, maybe, you know, your first year, you're just looking, I want to book in Oklahoma. I'd like to book shows in Nashville, or
Right.
like I want to go to Memphis. Well, great. There'll be people from Nashville, Memphis, Tulsa, everything there.
And you can play their private showcases and make connections
Yes.
there, and either find people that know someone that owns a club or has a floor you can sleep on, or has
Yeah.
a friend that wants to swap shows. And it's not paying your entry fee to play a 3 20-minute sets in a private showcase. That's
Yeah.
not at all. You're paying to go to a conference where you can actually meet people, learn things about your craft. I'm mostly excited about the master classes this year. Maybe I'll learn to sing, and you know. But like that's kind of the way you have to look at it. The first year we did it we wanted to give KC artists a chance to see what this was about, and we learned a ton just from that first year. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is to look at it in terms of really using it to meet people, network people, better your craft, better your tours. You know, it's always just escalating everything.
It really comes down to what you want. Like when you think about wherever you are in your music, for whatever, you know, whichever stage you're at, like what is it you need right now? Is it that you need more gigs? You want to know more people? You're looking for a drummer? You're feeling uninspired in your music that you're writing right now? My God, just the breadth of musical talent is just incredible. If you haven't been, it's just astonishing. It's not just singer-songwriter, single one guitar, you know, singer voice kind of thing, which is kind of I guess that's
What
the
people assume it is, yeah.
assume. You know, but then I saw the girl, you know, playing the Japanese koto, and you know, we got to hang with David Amram too. Blew my mind.
Yeah,
Like
he's
I'm still high from it. It's been a
Me
year.
too.
Like I can't wait to see him again. You know, just so there's no matter, even if it's just that you want to try to shake up your own brain and hear some music and get around some other really inspiring musicians. Just to be around the people that are doing it is super inspiring. We're such a small community here. We all know each other, and it's a wonderful, amazing community here. But the access to just people is great. Maybe that's what it is for you this year. You're just going to go and like, God, I just want to open my eyes and see what else is out there. All the way to, you know, we're looking for a booker. Just tell everybody, you know.
One of the things to consider as well is that of those 2,000 delegates who aren't from this area, so about 500 from Kansas City and the surrounding states, but the 2,000 who come to the conference, no matter where it is, they match who you are in this community, they are in other communities, at the level where they're leaving their community to come to an event here. And within each of those communities, there are legends, and there are people who have influenced the music community, either as presenters and organizers or as artists, and you can end up in a coffee conversation with someone who, yeah, they're not a household name, but mention their name back in the Northeast, and you had coffee with them? Wow, okay, well did you know that that person started this club back in this college town back in this year, and they're the reason that this record company's, like, it's really a way to mainline the legacy of the acoustic music tradition in North America, primarily. But while there are plenty of people to meet in a random way like that, there are also tactical ways to approach the conference by looking at the program listing and looking at the people, particularly who are on the panels, but also to go through the delegate list. So once you've registered for the conference, you have access to the delegate list, and you can filter and see all of the delegates that are coming from Ireland, all of the agents, the managers, the artists. You can pick a state, a country, a region. You can pick a type of delegate. So if you're just interested in festival presenters, that's your focus, then you filter by presenters and see who's coming representing all of the festivals and clubs. And you can start to do your homework on them and look at the websites. And certainly if you are showcasing or you want to set up a meeting, it's an industry norm at these events to put out an email in advance and request a meeting time. Many of them will have a booth set up in the exhibit hall, the trade show hall, where they're going to be set up each day, and for 3 hours they'll be there at their stand. They'll have information about their festival, their event, their record company, and it's a completely appropriate time to go up as a stranger and talk to them. But you're also welcome to contact people in advance and start a conversation. They may or may not be available or interested in meeting, but it's the beginning of a conversation.
Someone told me the very first year that when you're in a panel or a situation where you can ask a question, you should ask a question, but only if you actually have one. Don't waste everyone's time. But if you stand up and ask a question in a group or a panel, say who you are. Hi, I'm Erin McGrain, and I'm with Victor and Penny, and I would like to ask Matt a question about something specific. So I know that sounds like a really weird thing, but people remember that. They might remember you, and if there's any way someone might remember your name in the hallway when you pass them, this is a good thing.
Can I actually piggyback onto that? I got to know Sam Baker just through some shows he'd played here, and had played with him before, and there was a moment when I'm talking to him like in the elevator lobby and then riding up with him in the elevator. And if you know Sam, I mean, he's very well respected with this entire group, and a lot of people that attend know who he is. And like, he got out on one floor, he's like, when are you playing? And I said, I made sure to tell him the exact room I'm playing at the exact time, and then it closed, and like, somebody asks me, how do you know Sam? I've played with him before. I'm Tommy. And you hand out cards, and like, a couple of those people showed up to my showcase. So I mean, if you are really working it and you meet people in the right way, as egotistical as it sounds to say, I rode up in an elevator with Sam, and but I got 2 people there at my private showcase that probably wouldn't have a clue who I was, and then you walk out of the elevator and the rest of the people think you're like some guy that tours globally, when it's like, I'm a regional kind of guy mostly. So that's the same thing. Like, make sure people hear things, know things, and know who you are.
So I want to take this opportunity to move on to the next slide. I do want to touch on a couple points. One, this is a professional conference. This is where you do the business of your career. You can have a lot of fun here, and you can see a lot of great music, but you can also do business. Second, Erin mentioned that this is a great resource, and really what she's been saying the whole time, the resource are the people. This is filled with people, and they are professionals either in their own, their local region, or nationally or internationally. And that's amazing that this many people are there that you can hang out with in a professional atmosphere. So I'm going to move on to this next one real quick.
And most of the people that are doing, that might be coming to your private showcases, like venues, let's say you're just looking for venues, you want to get on the house concert circuit, which is a great circuit. It's different than the festival circuit, but it's a great circuit here. They're probably not going to come to your 2:30 in the morning one, just so you know. They might, but a lot of them are on panels in the morning. So just kind of watch your P's and Q's. And, David Amran came to our 2:30 in the morning one, so that was awesome. But, just try to just be professional, I guess that's what I'm gonna say.
We talked a lot about panels here, but the master classes are really the same thing. You're dealing with professional musicians who are taking their time to sit down and teach you their craft, and everything that applies to the panels applies to the master classes, along with the fact that you get to learn from these amazing musicians. Aengus mentioned something earlier, and how these people who are coming might be legends in their own region, right? And that's point number one for networking basics. You never know to whom you are talking to. So always assume that the people that you're talking to are important, that they deserve your respect, that they deserve to be listened to. And got a couple other ones on here. That friendliness goes a long way. Helpfulness goes even further. I mean, people from other regions are looking for connections in the Kansas City region just as much as you're looking for connections out there. Offer your help. If you have something to offer, offer it. And offer it honestly.
Home at 4 a.m. As I was driving home, I just see a musician with a banjo walking. I'm like, I'm guessing that's Folk Alliance people.
Yep.
So I have a friend way up north in Canada, should I ever decide to drive there.
Well, you might get there.
And this final point, and we're gonna along with what Jeff said, don't ask for a gig on the first time you meet somebody. But if there's something that you want from somebody, ask them for it. Talk to them. Right? This is the place where you're doing professional work. So in a professional manner, ask for what you want. But so if you guys would like to talk for a moment, just kind of about these basics of how things work when you're in dealing with people individually.
I might be able to just to tack on to the end of that real quick. I think it's not so much about not asking for a gig right when you meet someone, but more about knowing that you have something to offer as well. It's like people aren't out here to hire you just because they like your music. People, especially when everyone's coming from all over the world, all over the country, you have to have something to offer them as well. So, if you can draw 150 people in Boston and say, like, I have this band, we've been there before, we draw this many people, could we talk dates? I think you could have that conversation. But again, I think you don't start with that. It's still about getting to know the person and what they're looking for. Why are they there?
Doing your research.
Doing your research and knowing what it is.
Well, and I think something that you guys touched on, something that you guys touched on that I think is just as important as asking for something is kind of having a sense of where you are in the ecosystem and what you really do. If you, like you said, if you're touring regionally,
Right.
you should know that, well, for me, this is kind of the circle of tour dates that I would sort of like to go after. And then the question to ask. If you meet a festival presenter from the Northeast somewhere, they know all of the other festivals. The question for them isn't, how do I play at Falcon Ridge in Connecticut? It's, what's the festival in Oklahoma? And they'll say, oh, Woody Guthrie Folk Festival.
Right.
That's probably the next line, or that type of a thing. And I think it's just kind of and I think it's something that happens at the conference anyway, because there is so much talent there. And I've been as a musician a few times, and you just get, your ego just gets slammed to the ground. You're like, oh my God, that guy can write a song. Have I ever written a song like that?
No.
I didn't mean to make you feel that.
But but from doing it a bit, you start to kind of see, what I do isn't in this piece of in this angle that I thought it was in. It's, I'm more of a folk act than a bluegrass act, even though I'm playing a bluegrass instrument or whatever it is. And I think that's something that happens over time, but it's a good thing to kind of know going into the conference too, of just what that next step is that you would potentially be looking for and asking for.
That's really interesting. I think that's true. That certainly the first year we went was sort of like, we didn't even know what the ecosystem was. Like, we just in our little microcosm here. So we got into that big world and trying to figure out where we are in that and where we want to be then was the next
Right.
question. I think also as musicians or any artists, we always think about it like, oh, gee, I hope they liked me. Like, and I was an actor for so many years, so it's always about you going and you hope they like you and they cast you. And somehow I think it's like we think if they like our music well enough, they'll put us in their club. But we've had really point blank, frank conversations with people that say, I came to your showcase, you guys kill it. I love what you're doing. Unfortunately, can you tell me you can bring 75 people on a Saturday night in Boston? That's a great example. No. I cannot guarantee you we can bring 75 people on a Saturday night in Boston. We've never played there. Do not tell them that you can bring 75 people on a Saturday night because you won't, and then you won't play there again. So then it's like, well, how do we, if we really want to play, and then they're like, so then his answer to us was like, you know what, I love what you guys are doing. I'm going to see you next year. Here's my friend, and you should meet, you should talk to so-and-so. She's in Minneapolis. Have you been to that, And then you'd start to think about, do we want to go to Boston? Is that something we're interested in pursuing? Then that becomes a strategic choice for you. Just knowing where you are in the world is one of the coolest things about the Folk Alliance too, and not feeling sad about it, but just saying, I'm really happy playing in a 500-mile radius in the Midwest, which is where we've been in mostly the last year. So we want to do. So that's where we are right now.
And that's what kind of, when I said, I learned I was doing a lot of things wrong. First couple, I fill a very specific niche of folk singering, and I played my first year. I played a number of different rooms in some places where I thought, oh, this will go over great, and you learn quickly, like, no, this is not at all what this particular room is suited for. And so, I then started to kind of learn how to all right, let me find people that I feel like I have a connection with just stylistically. Not where do I want to play, who do I really connect with that's a musician? And you start to see where they're playing, and then that's how you, if you want something, ask for it when it comes down to, the private showcases in particular. See where some of your favorite people are playing that you feel like you stylistically fit with, and see if they've got spaces to open. And more importantly, those people that you connect with, make friends with them. And when they come to town, be at their shows. And when you're going out of town, if they're playing at it, be at their shows. And suddenly you develop friendship with these people that, I was initially just a fan of somebody, but now I don't at all feel nervous about saying, hey, Tim, I see you're coming in town. Can I open? Or I'm going to this town. You're going to be there. Do you need an opener? Do you need a place to stay? And so that's kind of how it works. But so when I say doing things wrong, I figured out I was thinking about how I am as a songwriter in the wrong way, and I needed to start looking in terms of, okay, where do I find the crowd that actually likes what I really do?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another great thing about networking with other musicians. That's a great way to get into a town. Find a band that's from that town, from Minneapolis, and ask them if you can open for them. Have them, see if you can get on a bill where they're already popular, where they already know people at a good club,
And many times, for those who are musicians and are going to the conference as musicians, who might have an interest in touring beyond a 500-mile radius, it may be years before you're actually dealing with the agents and managers and bookers directly, and it may be that your first few times through a region are actually assisted by the artists from that area that you met at, if not this event, similar events or festivals. So you can also treat the entire thing as just a networking event from top to bottom that's going to lead to conversations that you can have at other events or at festivals. Even looking at the official showcases, if you had to pay to go and see all of those artists in concert, most of whom never come through Kansas City, it would take you years and cost you a lot. and over the course of 5 days, you can get a sample of what artists from 20 different countries do, be inspired by things that have nothing to do with your musical style, but that give you a sense of what your peers are doing in the field, what some of the legends are doing, what some of the emerging artists are doing, that might inspire some collaborative work or just new avenues in your own creative process, but can also, once you've seen people play, you have something to talk to them about. So if you're new to the scene and you're feeling overwhelmed by, 2,000 people who all clearly know each other and work with each other on an annual basis, seeing their work or hearing them on a panel gives you a way to start a conversation that is about what it is they offer or do. And certainly with artists, that can lead to, there are tours that have happened where artists from a particular area in Canada or the US has started touring abroad because they became friends with an artist who similarly is here from Australia or Scandinavia, has no contacts here in North America, has put a lot of money and time on the line, and they're hoping to develop relationships so when they come back, they have someone locally. If you can draw 100 people in a place, certainly somebody from Scandinavia can't their first time through, but if they can come in and open with you, well, all of a sudden you've got a relationship with someone that you can then go back on an adventure and in sort of an investment tour of a different market that allows you to step out of where you're from, have a completely different cultural experience, add international touring to your resume. That comes back. It's a new conversation when you have a press release. It's something new for local media to pick up on and talk about that tour you did in Scandinavia. Nobody has to know that it actually cost you money to do it the first time. I mean, but it's part of a process, part of a career, part of building those relationships that in over the years will lead to greater traction in those markets.
Sometimes, almost every year, people have asked me if I've booked gigs from the Folk Alliance, and the answer is yes, but actually that is not one of our top 5 whys to go to the conferences. We're not necessarily hoping to book gigs at the conference, although that has happened. But I think sometimes people, that's one of the misconceptions about it, that you're going to go and showcase and there'll be just people lined up ready to book you. And it doesn't really work like that. Now it can work like that. I have known lots of people that have booked gigs, and there are some venues, especially house concert venues, I think, that do their homework. We've had people come up and find us because they're just like we do homework on venues and on bookers and things, like they're doing homework on small duos and trios that are right for their series. So they've come to our showcase and introduced themselves, and we've booked gigs that way. So it does happen, but I don't think that's the main. It's not a showcase. Kind of implies like literally you're going to showcase and they're just going to book you right there. It just doesn't always happen that way.
Well, and that kind of segues into something else that I think about. Just working with all kinds of people that come to Folk Alliance is there's a whole network of businesses and organizations that kind of live in the Folk Alliance world. And one of them is house concert presenters, which a lot of artists make their living at these house concerts. And it's great for them. It's an intimate room, and house concert presenters will come to the conference to develop their business. I mean, I say business; they don't necessarily make money off of it, but it is it's
Their
a serious
series, yeah.
It's a serious thing that they do, and they come because their goal is to find the artists that their audience hasn't heard of yet, but that they're absolutely going to love. And similarly for some of the private showcase presenters, that's their job. They go from all these conferences, they present it private. They book these private showcases. There's a whole range of activities that people figure out around the Folk Alliance family of conferences, and again, it kind of comes back to that question of what is it that you do. I can think of a few people that aren't headlining touring musicians, but are sidemen, for instance, who go to the conference because they get studio work, or they're the cat in Boston that songwriters know to call. Again, kind of centering around like, what's this really about, and what's kind of the next step that I'm taking in my career, and then how do I sort of weave into this system to be able to do that.
And for someone who's going new for the first time, I mean, it can be intimidating if you don't know folks, and then you can end up sort of going to the circle of friends that you know and hanging out with the KC crowd because you know them. And but one way to break that is to volunteer. It also, I mean, it gets you into the conference for free, but it also puts you immediately into a scenario where you're part of a team, often with folks from outside of the area who are similarly interested in doing something at the event that gives them a role, but also provides them access to the conference at no cost. But then you have immediate relationships with people that you're volunteering with, that you're going to see throughout the conference, and be able to, if you don't know what to do, ask someone that you've started to have a conversation with what they're going to next or what they recommend, and follow them along. You can do far worse than stumbling into a room and discovering a legend that you never knew about, or discovering an artist that isn't yet known. But I often think of some of the first Mariposa Folk Festival in Ontario. There were two artists who weren't selected to perform at that festival, and one was Joni Mitchell and one was Gordon Lightfoot. And Joni Mitchell wasn't selected because she only had 2 songs at the time. I mean, they're 2 of her classic hit songs, and Gordon Lightfoot, just no one had heard him before. They were both back headlining the next year, but the conference is also full of people who are about to become legends or major touring artists. And just looking at some of the alumni that have come out of the Folk Alliance conferences, and that's one of the things that happens each year. You never know who is going to break. So enjoying the artists that are there, and being you can be tactical and go through the program, and I certainly recommend highlighting all the things that you want to do, making a bit of a schedule for yourself, using the app to program where you've decided you want to be, but then also leaving breathing room just to discover things and have random conversations and get distracted, and don't feel you have to do it all. It is a 5-day event. I mean, it starts with an awards show. You may not know anyone receiving those awards. Go there and be part of that and see some of those Lifetime Achievement Awards presented, because those are the people who 30 and 40 years ago built the community and the industry that informs everything that we're doing now. And then some of them are unknown artists, but it's unknown artists or people in the community, but they're part of the smaller networks that happen, that are being honored, that are like Kansas City, and can kind of spark ideas about, I never really thought about Colorado Springs. Well, now you've just seen someone honored there, and it might trigger for you that sort of appreciation that the Brick and all of the events that happen here have that mirror community in Colorado Springs. And it's one way of thinking differently about, if you start to tour or you're going to go and visit a place, that it's not just where can I get the gig, but right, there are as many places, and how would I get someone to understand the Kansas City community if they were coming from outside of there? Well, that's how I should approach that other community, and know that there's all sorts of different levels of interaction. And so the more that you stumble into sessions and networking receptions as well, each day there are different receptions. They're just mix and mingle receptions. If you're shy about approaching other people, go to those receptions and hang out with one person that you know who's more gregarious, and then piggyback in on the conversations, or just listen, and you're going to get to know a lot about people as they go. We were talking about legends, regional legends. There are also national and international legends, and unlike other industries, certainly in the folk music community, they can be very unsuspecting. So that old guy in that ratty sweater that's saying that he actually founded one of the major record labels, and is still running it. And isn't really scouting, but is probably going to pick up someone at this conference, to add to the roster in a year or two. So again, just listening in and being aware that some major industry players are there as well, and they're not. Typically, they're pretty low key about it, and because it is, I often describe Folk Alliance like a family reunion, or it's kind of a festival for everyone who plays or puts on folk music. Take away the audience and bring together all the people who do the work of it. And it's the one time of year where everyone gets to be in the same place and relax and kick back a bit. And there's also that community vibe that's important to appreciate.
And if I really I think a great point that he's making, this is sort of in the off the beaten path world in terms of you never know who you're talking to or who's listening. Pretty much anywhere you walk around the area, in the hotel, anywhere, there's music happening, being in the lobby, in the stairwell. And I remember walking from the Westin to the Sheraton last year, and I mean, John Keck was just in the middle of the walkway playing. You never know who's going to be walking from one place to the next that might hear you for a minute and either go, hey, I dig this stuff, or wow, stop and listen for a minute. If you see a hot picker that you're like, man, this would really make this performance, ask him to sit in with you. If you're confident enough with your instrument skills, just jam with people. Always take as many opportunities as you can to be heard, because that's the same thing. Some of these unassuming people that may just be hanging out might be listening for something that's really awesome.
To that end, I would say too, our first year, we tried to go see all of our friends in all of their private showcases and watch the whole show. And the second we were like, no, I'm not going to see any of my friends in any of your showcases. God love you all, but we all see each other all the time. So we, unless someone said, hey, I've got a showcase down at, this time, and I really want people in that room because I've got somebody coming, then we would go. Right? Yeah. But otherwise, I actually stayed out of the Kansas City rooms because there's so much more to see and do, and there's so many new relationships to make.
And to that end, as an artist, you can go around and pick up things and see things that you have never seen before, and you can get new ideas, and you can make new friends. I know you guys did that a couple times. So yeah, Kansas City room, they're a lot of fun, but get out there.
Yeah. Go for a while and then go see something else.
And keep in mind that fewer of us that are in there taking up the room,
the
more space there might
seats.
be for somebody else that just wants to wander in.
Yeah, because if it's too full, sometimes people won't go in a room. If it's too full, people sometimes won't go in a room if there's nobody in there. Also, don't get freaked out if somebody walks in and watches half a song and leaves.
Yep.
Don't worry about it. It's a weird thing.
Don't take any of it personally.
You got to come out banging your first song. Every song should be your best song. You've got 4 songs. Make them all your best 4 songs, and don't worry if anyone is watching or not watching. It's a real test of professionalism too. Yeah. I'm tired. It's 1:30 in the morning. I don't even have a microphone, but I'm going to get out here and give it your all, because you really don't know who you're talking to, and you also don't know who's in your room or why they're there. And you may not have an opportunity to meet them. They may come in the middle of this song and they may leave in the middle of the next song, and you don't even know who they were. But you might get an email later that says, I was in your room and I'd like to book you, or whatever. So.
And I'll testify, a couple Kansas City musicians got some festival slots. Just somebody happened to wander into the room on the first year, and just at the right time, saw who they liked, they started talking, and that happened. So these types of things definitely happen. Don't count on them.
There's only 200 shows going on at the same time.
Right. By the way, who's been to the conference? Okay, so everybody's pretty much been. All right. So you know that it's also a lot of fun. All right. So, we don't want to keep you here all night. We do want to just talk about basics just a little bit. Again, this is our tagline. It's about your career. So, just a few things to keep in mind. That it is a professional conference. That you should be disciplined. You should think about this as a career opportunity. It's really easy to get overwhelmed and to do too much and then ruin your experience on a day or 2 days or 4 days. Stay hydrated, eat good food. This is the best advice I ever got. Bring an extra pair of shoes. Because seriously, by midnight, you'll really want another pair of shoes. It'll be wonderful. Do not miss the panels and the master classes, and along with that, don't miss the opportunity to talk to people. Don't miss the musicians who are going to be playing earlier in the evening at the showcases. If that means that you have to go to bed an hour early and miss some private showcases, so go to bed an hour early, because really these things are what you're there for. Of course, have fun. And oh, did we mention networking? I don't know if we mentioned that or not.
I'd like to add to that, don't miss
Add.
the exhibit hall.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes,
Because I work really hard on that.
I'm going to be at a booth every day.
I'm sorry. Actually, the exhibit hall is amazing. Who here went to the exhibit hall before?
I mean, there's so many great organizations and instrument companies and agencies and labels, and they're just there, and that's what they're there for. They're there to talk to people.
As a geeky musician, I can just give you a quick rundown. There's free guitar strings and capos and tuners, and more capos and more strings and more tuners. There's also, usually like a festival or two.
Yeah.
There's labels, so you've got samplers. Also, people that are totally willing to, if you're carrying around cards, downloads, CDs, anything like that. Now, granted, they might come back with a bag full of 600 of them, and they may or may not hear it, but on the chance that they do, that's awesome. I mean, last year, who was it I got just randomly stumbled in, got it fitted for a very nice pair of custom earplugs. Plus, there's for those of you that may not have health insurance, there's like dental care there, which is an amazing thing. Like, that's not necessarily the exhibit hall,
No, but
it's
yeah.
it's that same sort of thing. These are all services to kind of introduce themselves to musicians and get musicians to be a little bit more dedicated to a certain brand, or it's a festival looking for people. So it's a cool part of it.
We'll be actually in the exhibit hall. Was our first year doing that in NERFA at the regional conference, which things are a little bit more accessible in the regional because they're just smaller. So we actually worked in the exhibit hall. So we were with another group. So we paid a little slot to have about an hour of a day. And we'll do that again here at the international one. So we'll have an hour of day every day in the exhibit hall. We'll be at a booth with other artists under this other umbrella organization, and that has been amazing because somehow you kind of get vetted a little bit by being within this thing, and that was fantastic to stand in one place in the exhibit hall and just see everybody come through, and everybody comes through at some point. So
yeah, our label did it the first year, and I don't know how many people we got just added to our email list alone.
And I was going to mention also, from that experience of Money Wolf Music doing one of the booths, is that all we wanted to do was talk to people. So do not feel weird about walking up and talking to people in the conference hall, because that's why they're there. And it makes their day for you to walk up to them and talk to them.
Yeah.
They want to tell you about what they do, and they want to know about what you do and how they might be able to build a relationship with you.
One new thing to note this year, last year we ran essentially consecutive events in both the Westin and the Sheridan. So the Westin was the conference side, which is the industry event and wasn't open to the public, and the Sheridan is where we ran the music camp, but also the music fair, so public activities throughout the entire conference. And what we found was that while we had some people locally come to it, we had an equal number of delegates from the conference who also continued to go over to the public side of things. And that eroded some of the attendance at some of the key events. So this year, we're going back to the way it was for 26 years before we played with the model last year, and just keeping the industry event at the Westin as the exclusive focus. We will still have the master classes at the Sheraton. That's for those of you who are interested or who have friends who are interested who wouldn't necessarily go to the industry event. Those master classes, instruction with musicians and teachers from across the country and around the world, for all levels, from beginner to expert, are available to the public as well, not just to delegates of the conference. So you can go and just go to the classes, like a music camp. And on the Sunday this year, whereas in the past it shuts down in the wee hours, Saturday is the last official day, and sort of in the dregs of the morning on Sunday, the conference ends, and then people sort of stagger back to their homes. This year on the Sunday, we're going to run the music fair, which is basically an indoor public folk festival. So it's no longer the industry conference. It's going to be a folk festival that anyone in Kansas City is free to come to. We're running a local stage, a Hispanic stage, an international stage. We'll have some headline performances by artists who are not coming to the conference to showcase, but will be performing on the Sunday. And that's really an event that's the main event that we're going to be promoting to Kansas City. We're not going to be promoting the conference per se to Joe Public here in Kansas City. If you're a professional musician or you're interested in the music side of things, you know about the event and you can come to the conference if you wish. You can come as a paid delegate or as a volunteer and come for free. But for those who might be interested in just coming to a musical event, such as Boulevardia or Irish Fest, well, this is a one-day indoor folk festival in the middle of winter, indoors. We're going to be running the exhibit hall on that day is going to turn into an artisans market, kind of like First Fridays. So there'll be like going to a summer festival where you could go and check out a stage, or you could go to the artist village and buy some pottery or painting. The same thing will take place on the Sunday within the conference space, but everything flipped over for the public.
One thing we haven't touched on at all, just trying to think of last things, is radio. Last year we went to the DJ reception, and ended up meeting a DJ from Scotland who ended up taking about 100 of our CDs, and wow. Our songs have been played in I think 9 countries now. So we have new relationships with people in France and all over that are saying, we like your live CD, let us know when you have a studio album available. That was a fantastic bonus, which we did not even know anything about or expect. That was just saying yes, being around, saying yes to something, having breakfast, showing up, talking, and it really turned into something great. So that brought us awareness of the opportunity to network with radio people outside of our Kansas City radio people who are so accessible to us, and we take it for granted, but I don't really know radio in other markets other than here. So I'm sure you'll be going to the DJ reception again, as we will as well. So that's something else too. There's a lot of radio people that even if you're not, because that's non-geographic, right? So that doesn't matter if you're not actually playing in Boston. Poor Boston. We've been beating Boston up. Kenny's here. But even it doesn't matter if you're not playing in Boston, because that Boston DJ is probably, if he digs your music, he'll play it. So this removes all that question of, can you bring 75 seats on a Tuesday night? Are you going to tour my area? I mean, those DJs, they're a great entree into a whole new group of people. So don't forget about them.
And one other thing we didn't talk about at all is that, especially when you're a few years into the conference, at that point you're a business, and businesses have to advertise. So I'm not saying you need to this is also my job. Full disclosure, it's my job to say this, but it's true, and I was surprised, it's my first go around at the conference, and I was pleasantly surprised actually with how many artists took the initiative to take out ads in the program and stuff, and with good reason too. They put their private showcase rooms on it, you open up the program, and I think it's always, and it doesn't have to be in that form, but it's something to think about as you approach it as a professional endeavor. Is that's one of the things that small businesses do. You know, it's a part of the game.
Just going along really quickly with the idea of Boston. If you want to penetrate a market and you want to tour there and you want to put 75 butts in seats, a great way is to make connections with DJs and start getting radio play in that region, and then follow it up with touring. So we've kept you here for a while, and we have promised you a short set from Victor and Penny. So I do want to open up the floor. It was actually been open the whole time. I just forgot to mention it. To questions. If you have any questions, I mean, this is a wealth of knowledge right up here. So please.
I have a question. Hi, my name is Chris Wensky. I represent John Doe Media. We do marketing, video production, and booking.
Yeah, yay!
Yeah, well done.
Okay. Well, I've been getting contact with people who are, came from last year. Do you all know of any places places to stay, places short term, places to stay for cheap or free?
For people coming in from out of town?
Yeah, people coming from out of town, that are wanting to come to the conference or wanting to experience it. It's a question that I keep getting asked. Is there any opportunity there?
We have a bed.
Okay, cool. Also, there's also artists that may not have a private showcase opportunity. Are there any venues that are opening up for the week of Focal Lines for someone who wants to go out in town and play a show while they're in town, say they're from Canada or from Ireland. They want to play a show in Kansas City. Are there any venues that we know of that are opening up that opportunity?
There's been some talk about this. Rhonda, do you know about? We've tried that in the past too. Like we've hosted, we did Record Bar last year, and then we hosted someone else the year before that. Sometimes those shows work the week of the folk lines, and sometimes they don't. There's so much going on, and I think somebody was trying to put something organized together this year. Was Galadriel trying to do something? Isn't it?
We're actually trying to coordinate with some of the local venues to see if there are any open slots for artists that are coming in. We don't have anything definite yet, but if you want to get in contact with the local community or within that, and we can, whatever we can find for you, let it.
For sure.
I don't have time to do anything in this.
Yeah.
Like I'll be at the hotel for 5 days.
Yeah.
Just a note on that, or just a thought on that is that on the one hand, it's great to get an artist a gig that's coming in from out of town. On the other hand, when people come to the conference, they come to plan their whole year, and for every hour that they're outside of the hotel, they're missing some of those relationships, synchronistic stuff, and just kind of the way a conference unravels when you stay in that zone. So I kind of see both sides of booking something outside of the conference.
And just because somebody doesn't necessarily have a private showcase right now, when do the showcases get published? It's coming up. I know soonish. I know we were given it. Our deadline's Friday. I can almost guarantee you that if you comb the private showcases, there are usually groups that have open slots here. I mean, I scored my first year like an open slot with a very, very popular room, and then I found two with a different one, and then the next year each of those booked me again. So it goes back to the don't be afraid to ask thing. Just because they don't have something now doesn't mean something's not available. and it also doesn't mean somebody's not gonna suddenly cancel out of nowhere. So it goes back to if there's a particular region they're really interested in or anything they're wanting to do, reach out to those showcases first and just ask.
So to that point is in the forum, can you get on the forum and kind of talk about that as well?
Yeah,
Saying
it's
out there,
it.
I would highly suggest that you take advantage. We do have the presenters list on our website, and even though we do not have contact information, because they don't want us to contact information, find people that you know people, use your network to reach out to people and send emails directly to those presenters. And there is a private showcase forum where everybody's looking for it, so there's a bunch on there. Sending out a weekly email on that.
And there are also impromptu pop-up shows all over the conference, and you can do those, or you can sit in on those. You can invite other musicians to join you on those. There are so many opportunities inside of the conference. If it's possible, we'll try and help outside of it, but we'll look inside.
Yeah, and when in doubt, I mean, just pop up in the middle of the lobby when nobody's playing and put on your own. Like that happens 24
All the time,
hours a
yeah.
day. So it's
hallway
you can
and
you can put on
everywhere.
your own. Now, it's all a case of somebody seeing the right thing at the right time. But if your sole goal is to just make sure somebody hears you at any point, you just play as often as you can, anywhere you can, whether it's a stairwell or a suite. So.
One last question. Are there any marketing opportunities, promotion opportunities for musicians that are coming through from other countries that, want people to see them at their showcase? How can they, what avenues are there available for that?
That's you. That's
That's-
you.
Wow.
That's you.
This is your job.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a number of things that acts will do. Taking a booth is a great way because then you have 3 or 4 hours where you're just telling people to come to your showcase that night. A lot of people do advertising in one of either the program, which is like the big book, or the pocket guide, which is the one that just has the private showcases in it. A lot of people will make flyers. A great
Digital?
one I've seen is people will do like a little laminate that attaches to your
Lanyard.
lanyard. Thank you.
You just had a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of L words.
Yeah.
There are also options to do pop-up stands.
Yeah.
So there are actual branding opportunities, and then for the most part, I mean, anybody who's coming from outside of the U.S. Is at a stage where they're working with music industry associate. You don't come here from New Zealand with your trio and drop $8,000 without a plan, and that typically means that you've been planning this trip since last May, and in conversation with folks, using the delegate list is the smartest and most direct way, and getting emails out to the specific people that you want to have come to your event. Typically, if you want bookings in the U.S., you pick a region that you want to tour in, and then go through that presenter list and invite the presenters from that region. And all of the contact information is there, so it's easy to access and easy to target who you want to have at the show. And then the rest of it is the crazy musical zoo that is just convincing people to come. Posters, I mean, for everyone who's been there, it's just a orgy of posters. So having something that works well and that is visually compelling, that clearly identifies when you're playing, having matching handbills that you can hand out or download cards or whatever it is, investing the time and money to have that material together. If it's your first time in and you're looking at it now with our deadline on Friday and you don't have private showcases, I really wouldn't spend a lot of time and money trying to make something happen. I would take the next month to study this conference and take the conference to really study and make relationships and then start planning for next year now.
I would mention also, just real quick, one of my favorite bands to this day, I met on an elevator, and it's Sarah Jessica Few, the Kodo player, and she was on an elevator, and she just turned to me and said, "Hi, my name's Sarah. Here's my card. Come and see us." I'm like, "All right." And Tommy and I and the rest of Money Wolf crew, we went and saw them 3-4 different times because they were so amazing. So really, it goes back to this people-to-people type of networking type of thing. So.
Probably works better than posters, just really, and then there's a lot of word of mouth and buzz that happens too. If something gets hot and you hear, go down right now in the Oklahoma room, someone's playing, run down there and go see. Also digital ad, we're doing
Yeah.
that this time. That's cheap. That's a pretty cheap entry, $50.
Yeah, and
That's a
there's
cheap
there's
one.
about 10 screens all over the conference, and they go in rotation, but it's great visibility. Just kind of, I think a lot of it with those sort of standard advertising practices is just it plants that question of who is that, who are they and why are they in the program, and it's again it's like a pretty dyed in the wool practice for small businesses, and as an artist you're a small business, so.
So what was that package you did?
Oh, that's their digital ads on monitors throughout the conference. That's like $50.
Yeah,
for
it's
an
pretty
ad.
cheap.
It runs throughout the conference. Like
Yeah, and in rotation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed
It's a lot
those
better
last
than
year.
buying some posters, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna
Agreed.
say, the posters just get lost.
Me.
We did I know the first year.
This is Alex Mallet. He's the business
Sales at
business
folk.org.
Yes,
sales.
sales at folk.org.
And we've partnered with other people on some other things. For instance, like the booth space. We're also having elevator skin. We're also doing, color ad in the booth, and we're partnered under an umbrella with several other people. So that really splits the costs. So that made it much more affordable. So then you start to. I think the best is repeated. So you might see you in the booklet, and then you might catch it on the digital ad, and then you see it. Oh, on the elevators, can I recognize those people? That repeated exposure is like any advertising is.
The elevator skins are really popular too.
Yeah.
Those are like actual plastic, that covers the elevator. So people at this conference just end up waiting at the elevators like forever. and you see someone's face like that big, you're like, oh, who's that guy,
Learn to take the stairs.
Yeah.
Those are the whole weekend, or do they change?
No, those are there the whole weekend. Yeah.
And you have how many left at $600 for?
There's probably I should know that off the top of my head, but there's probably about half a dozen. There's probably 6 left in the private showcase levels.
I mean, that's a pretty good deal. If you put a group together, $600 for an elevator skin, will be there the whole weekend. It's
Yeah.
Also, about the staying outside the conference. So the first year, we live here in Kansas City. We live downtown, actually, blocks from the hotel. And we stayed at our own house and would get up, just, traipsed home and then dragged ourselves back there in the morning. And we decided the next year that we were going to stay in the hotel, which is what we did last year. And that was huge for us. And we're doing it again this year. We're coming on Wednesday and we're staying all the way through Sunday. That was just a cost that we decided to pay last year. So we've been saving our pennies to do that. But that made such a difference to us because we were able to sleep in the afternoon. Like I needed to go lay down for a half an hour and just shut the madness down and take my shoes off and lay down in the dark room. Drink some water.
Second pair of shoes.
Switch to my second pair of shoes. Yes. Drink some water, have a snack bar in the quiet in the room. That made all the difference in the world. So I didn't lose my voice last year. I've lost my voice at every conference. So I put a humidifier in the room. So again, I mean, it's like, just planning for that. That really helped. I would stay in the hotel if you can at all. I'd rather share the room with someone and stay there if you can.
And then there's also the Sheridan just right
next
across
door.
the street.
Yeah.
So
It also actually gives you the opportunity if you make connections with people the night before. Say, hey, let's meet for coffee tomorrow morning. Let's
Yes.
meet down and have breakfast and we'll talk.
That was the idea.
And it's a really, really great way to get to know people because you're kind of raw and tired and you're ready to go and you sit down and talk. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yep.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. All right, you're not shy. Okay, well, I want to thank our panel very much for your time, for your expertise.
It's pretty good.
And I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. This matters, right?
Great.
I don't know. I don't want to just keep going, but I mean, it's really cool that you showed up because this is, like we've been saying, it's about your career, and you guys are here and you're serious about it, and that's really amazing. So thank you very, very much for showing up. Victor and Penny, Aaron and Jeff, right up here, they have very graciously agreed to do a hello.
And then there'll be some tap dancing.
Yes. To do a short set for us, and please welcome them to the stage.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do a full lunch today. Just a few songs you gotta come up with. No excuses. Every song better be your best one. This actually, well, I think most of you have all been there. One of the things I found kind of hard was no amplification, which is just something you gotta get used to. The amplified rooms this year were playing in one of them, so that's usually the difference I say. Generally, you just gotta come out and make the most of it. That was the hardest thing for me. Get used to building our sets right. Here's some good guitars, we're gonna start them off slow and we'll lead them with a big finish. There's no guarantee that anyone is going to sit through any, even a whole song. There's not even a guarantee. So just got to come out and do it. Somebody
Yeah, so if anyone wants to leave during our set, that's fine.
feel free. Do you want to do?
Let's do
Yeah, it's so nice to be here.
You'd be so nice to go home to. You'd be so nice by the fire, while the breeze on high sings a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire. Under stars, chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and to You'd be so nice to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire.
Well, the breeze on high sings a lullaby.
You'd be all that I could desire. Under stars, chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and to love.
You know, when you're showcasing also, you don't talk too much. Like, we did the show, because we had a quad showcase, which is like, there's officials and then there's quads in NERFA, and we had 15 minutes, and they were really super serious. Like, there's a guy down here with the stopwatch, and he's telling us, like, I'm serious, like, I will stop you. We're like, okay, we're playing, so we planned it all out, and we practiced just exactly to see how much music we could get in 15 minutes. We did 5 songs in 15 minutes, I kid you not.
And 2 stories, I think.
And 2 stories, like, it was crazy.
That's
So he's
short
down in
songs.
front. He's like 2 minutes, and I'm like, okay. We start another song, and he's giving me this look like, oh, and I'm like, it's 1:51, and it was. But anyway, don't talk too much. Just let it be about the music. I'll stop talking now.
Some of these days,
You'll be so lonely. Some of these days, you'll miss me only. You'll miss my hugging. You'll miss my kissing. You'll miss me, Daddy, when I'm gone away. And oh, you'll be so lonely, alone without me. But you know, baby, why I went away. And when I'm leaving, you miss your little mama, damn, some of these days.
you'll be so lonely. Some of these days, you'll miss me only. You'll miss my hugging. You'll miss my kissing. You'll miss me, Daddy, when I'm gone away. You'll be so lonely, alone without me. But you know, baby, that you had your way. And when I'm leaving, you'll be grieving. You'll miss your little mama, some of these days. Your mama, take some of these days. Oh yeah, sweet little mama, take some of these days.
All right, we're gonna do a couple more for you. Do a couple of, these are songs that are gonna be on a brand new album that's coming out. Yay, oh man. Yeah, it's coming out soon. It's all originals except one, so we'll do the one for you and then we'll do an original.
There's a moon over Bourbon Street tonight. I see faces as they pass beneath the pale light. I've no choice but to follow that call. The bright lights and the people and the moon and all. I pray every day to be strong. I know what I do must be wrong. Oh, you'll never see my shade or hear the sound of my feet while there's a moon over Bourbon Street. Many years ago, I became what I am. Was forced into this life like an innocent lamb. Oh, you'll never see my face at noon. You only see me walking by the light of the moon. The brim of my hat hides the eye of a beast. I'm the face of a sinner and the hands of a priest. Oh, you'll never see my shade or hear the sound of my feet while there's a moon over Bourbon Street. She walks every day through the streets of New Orleans. She's innocent and young, from a family of means. Oh, I've stood many times beneath a window at night to struggle with my instincts beneath a pale moonlight. Why should it be this way? When I pray to God above, I must love what I destroy, and destroy the thing I love. Oh, you'll never see my shade or hear the sound of my feet while there's a moon over Bourbon Street. There's a moon over Bourbon Street.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna do two more.
I need to get up. Oh, there's mud in my cup. I'm staying in bed till all the papers get read. Day off with you. I'm stealing my socks. Oh, I'm neglecting the clock. I'm messing around in my dressing gown. Day off with you. Brewing a pot, stirring hot. Oh, if it's sugar you want, honey, that's what I've got. I'll take a shot, ready or not. No, this bag of bones just wants to stay home. Oh, then I hope it keeps on snowing. The dishes can stay
All day
all right where they lay.
till we put them away.
And that laundry pile will have to wait.
Day off boogie with you.
Yeah, take off boogie, stick it and stay up or take off boogie, hang out, hang up. Take off boogie, tune up, do a good thing, or give the neighbors a brilliant.
nothing.
Nobody can.
Oh man, honey, we can fly like a house on fire. Day off boogie with you.
Yeah, day off boogie, stay in and stay on board.
Day off boogie.
Hang out, day off boogie. Hang out and take a ball. With every neighbor to play, yeah.
Day off boogie.
Every second's a play.
Day off boogie, I will be your DJ.
We're gonna let us spin till the sun turns in.
Day off boogie with you. Day off boogie with you. Day off boogie with you.
All right. All right, last song. So this one's off our new album. You want to say anything about it? We just play it. Yeah, no talking. We'll just play. Thank you. It's been our pleasure. Thanks so much to you guys for putting